Ladies and gentlemen, TSG and the Medcom Sergeant Major.
Oh. Please take your seats. How's everybody doing? Before we start these awards, where you at, Tiffany, Hillary, Sabrina? So these three people, if you look to your left, Team TSG, Lieutenant Colonel Thweet, Major Bilderback, and Major Hillary McCormick are going to be the only three that pick up 3x5 cards. So does everybody have a 3x5 card? Hopefully you do. During the course of the next 60 minutes or however long this lasts, 60 minutes I think to 90 minutes, what I ask of you is to, on that 3x5 card, for you to give me up to 3 improvements that we need to do within your section or your staff, you know, and 3 sustains. What are we doing good? You know, what are we doing good? What are we doing bad? What do we need to improve? What's constricting you in your staff position from getting things done? Those cards, you do not have to put your name on it. Those are for me as I conduct, you know, again, the first, you know, 30, 60, 90, 120 days of the staff and what we need to do. Also, what's going to come out is a DEOC survey, and so I've been working with the IG for us to send out the DEOC survey to kind of get a sense of what's on your mind. I know we talk at the town halls, but I also want to give you the forum to give me the written feedback from the DEOC survey that you'll get via email, but also the 3x5 cards have always worked well for me. And so at the end of this time, hopefully you've written down some sustains. They'll walk down and we'll have you pass them. They'll collect them up. Those are for me, not for your supervisors or anybody else. And as I do the assessment, the thing that I owe you all, one of the results on the staff climate, as well as I want to address the issues so that we can fix what's wrong going on in the staff, okay? Everybody good with that? Okay, with that, where were we?
How you doing, sir? Good afternoon, Lieutenant General Dingle, Command Sergeant Major Gregg, Brigadier General Bagby, Brigadier General Johnson.
I think we all know each other. Let's get to the chase.
Yes,
Who's
sir.
the awardees?
All right. So
what I would like to do. So again, you know, just like last time. I mean, we are family, and so what I want to hear from you is, you know, what's on your mind, because I'm gonna give you an update on what's happening in the staff at the strategic level. You know, what is the latest information on transition? What is the challenges? What are the struggles? What is the fight? What's going on in the Pentagon that impacts us and the way ahead as we talk transformation? So I want to give you a quick update on that. We have a few slides. And then I want to open it up, you know, just like last time, you know, again, I mean, we're family. I want to hear from you so that we can get after it. And the thing that Command Sergeant Major I have committed to do, as well as the Chief and the DCGs, is to make sure that we fix what is impeding you from completing your job, as well as address the issues. One, I mean, you'll remember last time we were here talking personnel and a personnel task force and a personnel focus group meeting, and I said, okay, we'll get it down 30 days, and then you know, they came down and they had a focused town hall on the personnel transition stuff. Was that beneficial to you all? Okay, hopefully it was. But remember, we're going through transitions. You know, Hector, the team, and General Johnson, they're not going to have all the answers because a lot of that's still working out. But I tell you, there's also good news. You know, there's good news. I know that there's a lot of angst that causes anxiety about tomorrow, but tomorrow is strong and bright, and I'll touch about that in a few seconds here in a little bit. So we don't need to go through the formalities, because the other piece I wanted to do was make sure we recognize you all and the talent and the great things that you're doing. And so they said, well, sir, they got 25 to 40 awards. I said, that's okay, we'll do 25 to 40 awards. But I want to recognize you, because without you, we would not be successful. We would not be successful. So please, we also, for those that just did, we did a leadership lecture series. I apologize because I should have PR did a little better. That's for you, for those leaders who are into leadership and growing and learning leadership. What we're going to do is every month, I'm going to do one in the north, one in the south, flip-flop back and forth. And what it's going to entail is I'm going to bring in different leaders. Today we had Brigadier General Liederman, and as well as her Chief Master Sergeant, and they came and they talked leadership. She is the Joint Base San Antonio commander. That's the command team, Air Force. And the intent is for 50 minutes for us to bring in different leaders. We're going to get General Richardson, Lieutenant General Richardson, to do January. They're going to come in, they're going to tell their story, you know, their leadership TTPs, what was successful for them, what leadership lessons they learned and how they do it, and share nuggets of leadership for us all to incorporate into our leadership DNAs. Everyone's a leader. It's not just for GS-15s and officers, it is for everybody, you know, and anyone that wants to come. It's designed to be informal, you know, because I want you to be yourself and able to ask questions and not be afraid to say what's on your mind so that we can address those. But those are the leadership lecture series. So the first 25 minutes will be them presenting, telling their story, leadership. The last 25 minutes, or however long it lasts, is really Q&A or comments. You know, if there are no comments, okay, we're done. You know, it's free flowing. But again, it's to help us all become better leaders, and that's for you. Next one's going to be December up in the north, and we'll bring a different leader in up there. I'm also going to bring in some very key leaders also, because I want you all to be developed just like anyone else. And what I'm talking about is for the command teams, you know, we're working on leaders like Simon Sinek to talk the latest leadership trends. You know, trying to get him, we brought in for the PCC one time via VTC to give us that leadership nuggets to the commanders. Well, not just developing commanders, we need to develop the staff from whether GS1 or GS21. It doesn't make a difference. And so we'll be doing that. Also going to target emotional intelligence to come in, and we'll have a special session of maybe about 90 minutes where we bring in some phenomenal speakers on emotional intelligence, which gets back to leadership. And so as we build the leaders development program, the other thing I was just talking about to Ms. Klug was, you know, it's also the middle leaders. You know, I'm going to ask us to drill down on what civilian leadership opportunities are out there. What are we not doing? What are we not taking advantage of? You know, and so leaders, you know, we gotta build our leadership DNA from every civilian, from the lowest GS to the highest, to every officer, from the lowest enlisted to the highest officer. It doesn't make a difference. And I need to hear from you where we're missing the gap on leadership too, because some of you all in the past talked about, well, hey sir, well, what about us? There's no leadership opportunities, I'm not getting this course. Write it down, let me know, and we're gonna address it. Okay, Sergeant Major, anything to add? All right, okay, so skip the formalities, let's bring up our awardees for today. Who are we doing?
All right, well, sir. Lieutenant General Dingle and Command Sergeant Major Gregg will now present the Legion of Merit to Brigadier General Shane Bagby.
Sean.
For exceptionally meritorious service from 14 May 2018 to 31 July 2019, while serving as the Deputy Chief of Staff for Support, G146, United States Army Medical Command, Brigadier General Bagby's myriad of accomplishments are characterized by the absolute highest standards of leadership, professionalism, and dedication. He's an Army officer whose leadership over the span of his tenure positively influenced the lives of countless individuals. Brigadier General Bagby's exemplary performance of duty is in keeping with the highest traditions of military service and reflects great credit upon him, the United States Army Medical Command, and the United States Army.
Appreciate you. Thanks a lot.
You want me to hold that for you? You got some money? Oh, I'm on the mic. I'm sorry.
I can hear you, Sergeant.
Hot mic,
Yeah.
hot mic.
It's for you.
Lieutenant General Dingle and Command Sergeant Major Gregg will now present the Secretary of the Army Certificate of Appreciation Certificates for third quarter and fourth quarter 2019, along with Star Note and the U.S. Army Chief of Staff coin to Mr. David Lamb, G89, and Mr. Daniel Garrido, G89.
Let's do this. You got it. All right, Lamb.
For their outstanding contributions as the Command and Accountability and Execution Review for MedCom G8, their efforts directly impacted the Command's increase in purchasing power, devoting countless hours to educating, training, and developing innovative tools to better assist the unit. Their selfless service and dedication have contributed directly to MedCom's continuous improvement and financial stewardship.
It's okay. I'm embarrassing you.
You get so much stuff here. You got all right. Let's give him another round of applause. Thank you for that.
I did that to you. Don't worry about it. It's on purpose.
Congratulations. Thank you for your.
Lieutenant General Dingo and Commander Major Gragg will now present award for the winner of the One Staff Civilian Employee of the Quarter for first quarter Category 2, calendar year 19.
Do you know that you were the winner already? When did we tell you?
Okay.
Today. Okay. All right. Next time we're gonna do a surprise. Don't tell them, and I don't care if they're sitting up front, but I'd rather. Oh, but you want to make sure that they're here too, huh?
You see what had happened, sir?
How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Andrew. Surprise!
Right.
Where's your surprise face? There you go.
All right. Mr. Andrew Tondre for first quarter calendar year 19 from G146.
You get to keep it.
Appreciate you.
Great job.
Congratulations. Thank you. Awesome.
I need the rest of y'all to act surprised. Awards for the winners of the One Staff Civilian Employee for the quarter for second quarter, Category 2 and Category 3, calendar year 19. Mr. Enrique Johnson,
Hooah.
Category 2, and Mr. Eric Hooks for Category 3.
Woo-hoo! Congratulations, man. Outstanding. Congratulations. Outstanding.
Where's your surprise face? There you go.
Wait, shake underneath.
Surprise.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Man, and the Bears. Man, I'm telling you.
So you're a Redskin fan.
The Surgeon General will now present the Meritorious Civilian Service Medal to Mr. James Sarver, G357, Healthcare Delivery. For exemplary service from August 2015 through August 2019, while assigned as the lead decision science analyst in support of the Behavior Health Service Line, Headquarters, U.S. Army Medical Command, Joint Base San Antonio. Mr. Sarver led the innovation and design of several strategic and tactical level tools for the behavior health, and we're going.
He's
Thank
dropped
you.
the mic on you. He's walking off on you.
Whoa, whoa.
And we would like to say thank you for all you've done. This is pressure. The Surgeon General and Command Sergeant Major Gragg will now present the Civilian Service Commendation Medals to Mr. Peter Devlin and Mr. Martin Hagan in recognition
Shortcut.
of their extraordinary work for the G89 Finance Reporting and Accounting.
Peter, thank you. I appreciate you. Great work. Did y'all rehearse coming up the side? Did they say come up the side?
Yep.
Everybody keeps going to the side. All right,
Mr.
Martin.
Peter.
Switch.
I know, I'm like,
Peter.
they saved us $7 million.
Oh, this part. It's yours to hold. It's yours to hold.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate your hard work.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Martin, thanks a lot. Appreciate your work.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. At this time, Lieutenant General Dingo and Command Sergeant Major Gragg will present the Civilian Service Commendation Medal to Mr. Andrew Tondre.
Oh, man. Where's your other medal? You're supposed to wear all your medals.
You work in G1, right?
Cool.
I used to. I just got fired today. So.
You Appreciate
Wow.
Great
you,
work.
Angela. Great work. Congratulations.
All right. Lieutenant General Dingle and Commander Major Gregg will now present the Civilian Service Achievement Medals to the following:
3.
Mr. David Garza, Ms. Brittany McSweeney, and Mr. Michael Mayo.
How you doing?
They also had a cost savings of $7 million.
Whoa.
Cost savings of $7 million. Outstanding. Thank you so much for what you all do. Appreciate you. I'm hanging on the collar, okay? All right, good. Congratulations. 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 Give him another round of applause.
Great job. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Okay, so at this time, Lieutenant General Dingle and Commander Major Gregg will present the Department of the Army Federal Length of Service pins and certificates. Please hold your applause until all awardees are called for each length of service. For 45 years of service, Anthony R. Jones.
Okay, we got it.
Hold. For 35 years of service,
I'm doing
Miguel Mate. Hold.
Young man.
Did it go quick?
For 30 years of service. I'll get there.
Really?
Stop smiling.
Life is always like this.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you. Get on the other side, Simon.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations. Thank you for your service.
You
Appreciate
gonna
you.
take a picture with everybody else?
I am.
Oh, you want all of us?
You want them all together too?
We can wait, sir. So you can just
Okay.
stay right here, sir. For 35 years of service, Mr. Miguel Mate.
There he is.
35. Ooh.
There he is. Heart and soul of the enlisted G1.
And thank you for your hard service and work.
Sir, we just get the ball going.
Ooh, that's it. Keep it running.
That's right.
We appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Outstanding work.
For 30 years of service, Miss Carrie Klug. What?
I worked hard for this one.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you for your service. Miss Shake her hand with your ring.
Thank you.
Proud of you.
Very good.
Thank you for what you do.
30 years of service, John Rousey.
Yeah, I know. This is, sir, he's the one who always beat me up about awards, right? The awards guy. This is my guy. Doesn't let me sleep at night. Sir Major,
30
you
years?
forgot to vote. I hear you, Miss Torres. I hear you back there. Yep, co-signing. Great
Thank you
job.
for your service.
For 25 years of service, Maria Cantu.
Give me a high five on that.
Is that golden or silver?
This is
Mr.
silver.
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 She said she want the gold. She said this is silver.
I didn't know I'm supposed to be up here.
You didn't know?
Well, it matches your outfit. It was perfect timing.
Yeah.
There it is.
Do that. Give me the thumbs up.
Do it.
Appreciate you. Congratulations.
For 25 years of service, Mr. Enrique Johnson Jr.
Enrique.
Repeat customer.
Congratulations. You want high or low? Let's go low.
Just
don't, you know.
Just don't pick it, right?
I ain't still days old.
No
Is that a blood
wings.
badge? Outstanding. Appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, it's another group photo.
Group photo. Everybody come back.
There you go. Give me the bookend. got enough room?
We good.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you for your service.
Okay.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the award presentation portion. Without further ado, please welcome
All right,
our
we're good.
Mr.
All right, who you got the slides? Can you put the slides up? Can we project them?
Hello, sir.
So what I'm going to do is there are some slides we're going to run through real quick. I want to give you an update on what's going on. Command Sergeant Major and I will give you the current state, current status, and if you have questions, we'll be able to talk about or answer those questions accordingly on the current update from the Department of the Army as it pertains to OTSG MedCom. Next slide. Slide. All right, it helps me. You got it? Is it?
Are we too far ahead?
If it is stuck, is it stuck?
No, sir. It's
So the first slide talks about 5 R's. I think I introduced them last time we were here. Priorities are based on 5 R's, nested under the Chief of Staff and Secretary of the Army. Remember, the Chief of Staff of the Army says, what is his #1 priority? Who could tell me?
people.
People. Around the 5 R's, everything is about people. From being ready, next slide, to reformation, being reformed. One of the things that we have to do, non-negotiable, after being ready is we're going through reform. I get a lot of questions on, well, why so much change? Well, first, the law directs us to change. That's the reform piece. The next piece, the next R after that is reorganization. We have to reorganize as directed by the Chief of Staff of the Army. That's where the changes of AMED Center and School falling under TRADOC, the one slide I talked about on transitions of MRMC, those are all internal directives that were directed by our Army senior leaders. It's not how we may have been organized in the past. However, based on tomorrow modernization and the Secretary of the Army and Chief of Staff of the Army's vision and guidance, there were directed reorganization steps that we are undergoing. And I'll talk about the MedCom and the in-state in a little bit. The third one is, the fourth one gets to responsiveness. We got to be responsive. Army medicine, is responsible for conserving the fighting strength. Everything from the foxhole to the fixed facilities to our headquarters, it all gets into sustaining and preserving life on the battlefield. In order for us to do that, we got to change. We got to respond to the needs of the warfighters and to the Army itself. In addition to that, we got to be relevant. If we don't change and we're not relevant, we're going to become extinct. Yeah. And so as we change and things are moving at the speed of relevance, on the turn and the blink of an eye, and we have to be there to be relevant, to be at the table so that we can ensure that we continue, our critical missions, not just as a staff, but as an Army medicine throughout the entire force. Sergeant Major?
Absolutely. And part of that being responsive and relevant is understanding that we must maintain not only our technical expertise, but our tactical competence. As we are out there as a part of the warfighting function, we have to remember that we are a part of the warfighting function. The Army and our nation has a standing Army for one reason, and that is what? To deter, deploy, fight, and win America's wars. And every member of our team, whether it's in uniform or not, has to be willing to do their part to do that one mission. And that's what Army medicine is going to be positioned to do as we continue to move forward with this new changes in reorganization. Sir.
One of the key tenets under reorganization was the headquarters structure. As you all know, through the initial planning of the Army Reform Team and the MedCom and OTSG, as well as the DAG 357 planning team, they were going through a process that last year talked about MedCom goes away. Yeah. And the initial concept going back to a year ago, you know, and even when I think about it, I had PTSD because it was tough times. You know, it was dynamic change that we were going through. And it was dynamic, turbulent, where, you know, it felt like a leaf being blown in the wind in a hurricane. However, you know, we had to be responsive to ensure that the conservation of the fighting strength is not jeopardized by change. And so as we were going through the change, the initial concept was MedCom goes away. And we will set up, you know, MRDs. And these MRDs will go out and be embedded in the subordinate commands, FORSCOM, TRADOC, you know, USASOC, AMC, all these different elements. However, that was when the initial planning started to take place. April of last year, when I first came out of command of Regional Health Command Atlantic back up to OTSG as the DSG, the very first day on the job, the Vice Chief of Staff, who is now the Chief of Staff, said, "Hey, General Dingle, you're going to work for the SecDef." You know, I said, "Well, sir, you firing me on the first day on the job?" And he said, "Well, no, I'm not firing you." He said, "But the MHS transformation is so important that it's going to impact every soldier, civilian in Army medicine, from your headquarters down to the lowest MTF." And so as he sent me over to work for the SecDef to put together the transition directives, because what happened was the services were moving out on reformation, but yet we were not able to effectively take the law, NDAA, put it into policy to give the services guidance as they were executing. And so as I started working that with the team, the transition team and the senior transition leadership team, taking that and codifying policy so that we could execute MHS transition. In the meantime, the services were moving out. Thus the decisions,
Yes.
hey, MedCom, you know, and cuts and 6935 and things were happening, you know, as we're trying to get the policy out from OSD. And so the senior transition leader team was stood up to do that, to give the services guidance. Once the guidance got out to the services and things started to become clear on requirements, that's where Plan 1 of Womack Army Medical Center, you know, being a pilot or a test case under DHA. As many of you all know, there were a lot of lessons learned on the ability of an intermediate management organization standing up for the first time, trying to manage as one of our regions. And so we were not able to effectively give them full authority, direction, control, and management over just Womack Army Medical Center.
Right.
You know, that alone. And so as Plan 2 started to evolve, the Army's like, okay, here's what we're doing. You know, MedCom, you're going away, you know, and we're going to be restructured to MRDs. And then your Surgeon General staff is going to be modified to the functions that you need. But we're going to decentralize it because of the transition of the military health system to the Defense Health Agency. And so the lessons learned from Plan 1 and the inability of the DHA to stand up and take control and management oversight resulted in Plan 2 being thrown out the door, because every hospital was supposed to be over to the DHA on 1 October of 2018, but they were not ready. And so as we struggled to try to get the DHA stood up and ready, you know, we were just spinning wheels. In the meantime, the Army moved out. You know how we do in the Army. We'll make decisions and we'll move out. And so once it was determined that the DHA couldn't stood up, that they required direct support, and that, oh wow, as we made decisions, we also were learning the impact of those decisions, right, whether reverse profis, whether MedCom goes away, and all the other things that, wow, you know, what you all do really is important. And we realized the importance of that. And so the DHA came up and said, well, we need direct support, you know, up through 2022, when we should have our shot group together to provide the oversight over all 400 plus of the medical treatment facilities in the MHS. With that said, you know, right now we're in a direct support relationship where, you know, the regions will remain, and, you know, for an enduring period, not temporary, you know, an enduring period to ensure that the DHA transition goes well. In the meantime, you know, we are still struggling with trying to get that headquarters stood up. You know, you all have heard us transfer of function, transfer of work, how many people, you know, what goes where. You know, there has not been any movement on that, you know, because of all the legalities, the technicalities, and the differences of views and opinions from the services to the Department of Defense. And so that right now is being pushed up to the senior levels where, you know, decisions have to be made. But in the meantime, no, MedCom, you keep your mission. In the meantime, as we were trying to stand up a medical readiness command that was going to be that intermediate piece, you know, to do that mission, you know, the Chief of Staff in the Army says, no, MedCom, you know, is going to remain, and you're going to be the one that's going to lead the thing, period. It's yours. You know, we'll make that decision later. In the meantime, the Pentagon OPT has just developed courses of action that they're presented to the Secretary of the Army that basically reinforce the importance of what the MedCom headquarters do. And so that the need for an enduring permanent structure. You know, I think if I was clairvoyant, you know, we will change our name, you know, because it is in a time of change, and that is the direction of each of the services, and of course with NDAA. And so I believe that it will change the name to a Medical Readiness Command. You know, the chief will get his OPT COAs, but the thing that is so important is that it is so critical that the MedCom and the regions continue to provide the oversight, you know, of our facilities to make sure that the readiness of our soldiers and our beneficiary population, the family members, you know, is not lost. Right. You know, and that's where we are right now. We have a big meeting tomorrow that is going to review what's called the defense-wide review. At the higher levels of the Department of Defense, the SecDef is conducting the same level of change that we went through last year that impacted Army medicine is now at the Secretary of Defense level, and we're seeing how we doing things right. You know, he's doing the right thing, looking at ourselves and making sure that we are efficiently and effectively, you know, managing our different commodities. And this is at the Department of Defense level, looking at the fourth estate. And so, the meantime, you know, you all are critical, we are critical, but we got to provide that leadership through change, you know, and that's where, you know, one reason why, you know, I put the cards out, you know, because the issues that you see from your foxholes are so important that they come up so that we can fix, you know, the staff issues to make sure we're getting it right.
And on top of that, we have to make sure that we message appropriately, because if we look unstable, then people will look and move to stable waters. If we look like we are trembling and about to crumble, then everybody's going to look for self-interest, and they have to go. And we would encourage them to go to find a more stable environment. However, we're telling you this right now to your face that we are stable. Army medicine is not going anywhere. We may be transformed, we may change, but we're not going anywhere. And our mission is not going to become any less important if we have to change our name or as changes continue to go on. Those tenets of what we do and why we exist aren't going to change.
Next slide. So what I talked about, the conditions, you know, last year this time was the upper left-hand corner, you know, and I talked about it being a perfect storm because so much was happening, you know, and so much was hitting, you know, the United States Army of modernization and change. You know, and as we go through modernization and change and reorganization and reformation, the thing that I always used in that upper left-hand picture is that, you know, that ship in the middle, you know, is a Coast Guard cutter. You know, I don't care what happened in the movie, The Perfect Storm. You know, that's a Coast Guard cutter. You know, that Coast Guard cutter ain't going down. You know, that baby is not going down. You know, it'll get tossed and it'll get turned. But, you know, when the storm passes, it'll still be conserving the fighting strength and still floating because, you know, that baby is not going down. The bigger picture gives us the current state of today. You know, the seas are calming. You know, the seas are calming. We're able to now start to erect a sail up to give us direction on where we're going. And that direction, we have tremendous support from the Secretary, the Chief, the Department of Defense, because again, we're the majority of the military health system, and we are great at what we do. I've been telling everyone I'm biased. I'm biased. I think that our soldiers and civilians in the headquarters, to the trauma teams, to the trauma surgeons, to the 68 Whiskeys, to the center and school civilians, I'm biased. I think we're the greatest in the world. We are the best in the world. You are the best in the world at what you do.
Absolutely.
And I will tell the world that, I am biased, but I also got the facts because I see and I know what you do. And it's so important. But the cells erecting, and as we move towards the different initiatives that we have to change, a lot of y'all seen the articles on trauma, surgery, care, and whoa, things are not ready. And, again, I beg to differ. Are there things that we can change? Absolutely. Are there things that we're changing? Absolutely. I have a Tiger team that is working, getting after the ICTLs, the individual critical task list, to make sure that our soldiers are ready. That's going to be the driver that fixes it as we come with innovative solutions to partner with, civilian institutions, facilities, whatever we need to get after those to make sure we're proficient. But again, I know and I've seen what our trauma teams and our soldiers can do, our medics can do. They save lives. They save lives, and they are great at what they do. And so again, I am biased. And so, but we're gonna bring change. We're gonna do the innovative stuff. One thing that really I want to get after is, trying to bridge that gap and make sure that the South, gets that same attention as we do in the North. That's why it gets back to leadership development and us focusing on bringing the experts here in the North and the South equally, but also hearing from you, which is why those 3x5 cards are important, and the DEOC survey. I need to hear from you so that we can fix it and get it right. Let me know those concerns, whether it's transition or whether if it's, that supervisor over you who's not giving you that opportunity. We'll take a look at it. We'll take a look at it because we want to make sure that the command and the staff climate is straight.
And definitely, ultimately, we must also remain at the bottom of the slide, nested, focused, and seize the opportunity to get us where we need to be. Because we knew that we were operating and had been operating in a certain direction, but we all realized there were certain gaps that we had. There were certain things that we weren't covering down on. Well, this is our opportunity to see our gaps and cover down on those, change our processes and our practices to ensure that we meet all of the needs in a timely manner and that we become more efficient in our processes and procedures. Because we had been historically doing things this way, and oftentimes that was the answer. Why are we doing this way? Because we always have. Well, now we don't always have to. This is an opportunity for us to make a change and be the Army medicine that we wanted to be, not the Army medicine that we were in the past. Sir.
And that's what's great about, again, our Secretary of Defense, our Secretary of the Army, our Chief of Staff of the Army. They know Army medicine and they're believers. And so the thing that I can't change, as Sergeant Major just said it, I can't change the past or what was yesterday or what happened last year. But what we can change, not I, but we, is how we operate and how we go forward, which is why I need to hear from you in that input. Let's bring the change as we sharpen our excellence. Next slide. To sum this slide up, the box on your right-hand side is lead through change. We got to lead through change. And that's all of us. It's not about rank. It's not about position and titles. It helps. However, each of you all have a voice, but we have to lead through change so that the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines that are in combat, from the foxholes to the fixed facilities, have the world-class health care, the world-class responsiveness to the injuries that are derived from combat, to peacetime programs and services and systems that each of us are responsible for.
Yes, sir. And we must remain flexible. If we use spaghetti as an analogy, pre-cooked spaghetti snaps, it's fragile. But as soon as you put it under a little bit of change, it becomes super flexible and you can't break it. That's where we've been put through a little bit of change. So we're going to be flexible and we're not going to be broken. We're going to make sure we remain the 5 R's at the bottom.
And that's where we'll be. The Army Medicine of 2028, will be ready. We'll be reformed, we'll be reorganized, but we also will be responsive and relevant, to what's going on today, tomorrow, as well as in the future. Next slide. as we do that, this is one thing that we have to do is we got to find that sweet spot between healthcare delivery and readiness. They are inextricably linked, period, and cannot be pulled apart. Last year's perspective, many thought that, okay, got it, we need to separate them. You can't separate them. Those are our health readiness platforms. The DHA is not them, but the DHA is us. Those are still our teammates, our soldiers, our leaders, who are leading those facilities and those institutions. So it's not a we versus them, but it's we trying to find the balance as we work together on healthcare delivery as well as readiness.
And reorienting back to where and why we exist. Because we have to understand that in the past that we kind of circled the wagons around those MTFs, and that became the center of our gravity. We have to understand and reorient ourselves and understand that the center of gravity for the Army, and the reason why the Army exists, is to be able to take care of that operational soldier in the operational environment. So that's where we have to reorient ourselves to make sure that we as Army Medicine are positioned to do what the Army needs us to do as we move forward.
And we all support this. I'll close with this video, if we can get the video to run. We all support those that deploy, those that fight and win. See if we can run the video.
We're conducting a constructive exercise where we're simulating a military operation, and we're also using 2 hospitals that are located, field hospitals located at multiple locations, and we're moving patients from one hospital at Fort Irwin to this hospital here at Sierra Army Depot, and then further evacuating them back to Brooke Army Medical Center.
So you are seeing soldiers from Fort Polk, Fort Hood, Fort Bragg, Fort Campbell, 2 separate brigades coming together in the end towards an end state. And that is to make sure that they provide the best care for the warfighter.
27. Individually, we're pretty useless without the whole team. So it's really with the help of the team that this whole thing can come together and function like a hospital rather than as individuals. This is an incredibly important component of readiness because you iron out all those processes here. The first time you do it really is the hardest. The next time is the easiest. The third time it gets even easier.
This is how we're going to fight. And we must train as we fight. And our ability to come together really makes us a total force, is what the Army expects of us.
But when the word and that cry for medic goes out, our warfighters, our commanders know that they can count on their soldiers' lives to be sustained in combat because they're proficient and excellent at what they do. I close with this. Again, I'm biased because I know what you do. The surgeon said something in there. He said, we're pretty useless without the team. We're pretty useless without the team.
Absolutely.
The Army is useless without the team. We're that team, and you are great at what you do. And I tell you, I know it. I appreciate you tremendously, but we got to get it right. And that's why I need to hear from you. And as we go through, we got a little bit of time here for Q&As, but just like last time, if you don't want to ask the question, we'll be staying here afterward for you all to come up to also talk with us. Sergeant Major?
And please understand, we're training to standard, not to time. So we'll be here until you don't need us here anymore.
Even though I do got a plane to catch to get back to.
Sir, that plane has already been arranged, sir. That next flight is.
All right, let's go. Question and answers. We'll open it up, and again, if you don't want to ask in the public, we'll be here for a while afterward to talk to you one-on-one direct until we get at the last one. So, what are your questions and answers, comments?
Oh, I thought you was itching for that question. You was just stretching. All right. There he is.
Oh man. Let me ask, as we look for questions, Tiffany, Sabrina, Hillary, can you
he's coming. The mic's coming right there. Raise your hand, sir.
For the, before this question comes, can one of you all get each row? Can you all pass your cards to your left, and they'll come down and collect them. So Hillary, Sabrina, Tiffany, can you collect those cards as we go through the Q&A period? All right, please, here we go. Question.
Colonel Smith, sir. Sir, could you explain a little bit about the current command structure and what to expect moving forward as far as just the chain of command? Because that was a question that came up earlier in the week. And my understanding is that there's still processes being worked out to define who is actually the commander of USA MedCom.
So right now, I assumed command of the MedCom in March of this year.
Yes.
As the deputy. March was the date that we were supposed to stand up the Medical Readiness Command. However, as I assumed command, it was of the MedCom, and we did not change to a Medical Readiness Command, bottom line. The date was going to shift from March to April to June to July. And then as I was nominated and ascended up, we were going to put a 2-star, in command of the MedCom or the MRMC, which we were going to change to Medical Readiness Command, MRC. As that occurred, I maintained assumption of command, and then General Rest off-ramped as the Surgeon General. At the same time, I was nominated by the President to, become the Surgeon General. And as we did that, we still were under the concept of a Medical Readiness Command, 2-star billets separating the two. The chief has made a decision that that's not the direction we're going in. And so right now I am on the assumption of command orders. However, as a 3-star, the president appointed me. So the process has to start over for the appointment, and I have the acting, interim as the DSG. And then so I got to go through the whole nomination process again as MedCom, as we keep the MedCom as an enduring element. So, much details, but the in-state, MedCom, I have an acting that is assumed while my stuff goes back through the process again, because as a 3-star, the president is the only one that gives me those duties as command authorities. And that's the process that's working through right now. Future structure, there was talk, we talked about consolidating the command, right-sizing the regions. As I look at tomorrow, the thing that I have to balance, or we have to balance, is the requirements for leaders in the Defense Health Agency. So now we're talking joint regional health commands or defense health regions. They have submitted to the services requirements for 32 FO flag officer SCS positions. And so as we look to tomorrow's MedCom Medical Readiness Command, we're trying to organize it to best utilize the available flag officers to, in the case right now, is going to be dual-hatted until we can get the right number, to Defense Health Agency, and then what is our structure? Because, we have a limited number of flag officers, and our structure has to be led in the right manner. So I'm looking at potentially collapsing, consolidating regions. It won't have, multiple general officers in them, because as we start transitioning facilities, we still will have the management of those, but I got to get the right size to kind of spread, tomorrow's structure. So it'll be Medical Readiness Command, slightly reorganized, and we're working through what that's going to look like tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Paul Kennedy, G6. Can you, we're working through direct support and how that's defined with DHA taking over ADC of the MTFs. And so I know in our lane, in the technical lane, we have issues with what is direct support and how is that defined, what authorities do we have as we go through this time.
Outside of the strategic operational level, we've not gotten down into tactical details of authorities. However, how we are operating right now, the regions are still have the command and control and mission command of everything underneath its structure. So nothing has changed. The Defense Health Agency is not managing our medical treatment facilities. 1 October of 2018, they assumed policy oversight over every MTF. What does that mean? they can now direct, okay, you know what, you're going to have 2 instead of 3 in every operating room. Here's the policy on next day, third available, future, whatever it may, access to care, policy oversight. The direct management of the DHA, they still only have that pilot group for us, Womack Army Medical Center, under their 5+3, period. Everything else, direct support means that at the region level, the regions are providing the information to the Defense Health Headquarters, as well as, of course, the normal communication chain up to the MedCom OTSG staff. There's no change in reporting except they just added, the Defense Health Agency, period. All management functions remain the same. All authorities remain the same. There is no change. That will occur for this entire fiscal year 20. Fiscal year 20, the Defense Health Headquarters is supposed to set up its staff. That's where we get into discussion of transfer of functions and where they're going to get the people from, which is a different tug of war. In the meantime, no, they all stay right here. The sweet spot that we still have to determine is that, hey, the MedCom's enduring. Mm-hmm. So as everyone that functions want to run over to the DHA, I'm like, well, hold time out. I need you to stay in your job because we got responsibilities that we are still executing and that will remain. So no change. Reporting structure is all the same. It is above the region level that we've just added the information reporting to the Defense Health Headquarters. through fiscal year, through 1 October of 20, they're supposed to stand up the headquarters. And then from 1 October 20 to 21, they're supposed to start the management of the MTFs through a market structure. Briefs well, but very difficult to do. And so how that comes out, it's going to be conditions-based because, we have the safety net in there that, hey, look, if conditions are not met, we're not standing up markets and we're not transferring any functions or management responsibilities. And everything that I just talked about was Plan 3, as we go ahead. CONUS and then FY22 OCONUS.
So they're not supposed to be directing
No,
the
and
sites.
if they are, please provide the information back up to the staff so that we can synchronize what's going on because we've been getting some reports that, hey, look, they're calling all the way down to, Fort Timbuktu saying, okay, do this, when they should be going through the headquarters structure to get it to the staff or through our operations or the specific function, technical channel. And then our technical channel at OTSG MedCom provides it to the regions for execution if it's something that they want us to do. But it should not be going VFR direct. And so if that's happening, please get it up to the functional GO champion. General Bagby needs to know, as well as Johnson, our General Lodi, so that we can get it fixed.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that answers my questions about tasking authority, because we have run into situations of, DHA tasking down to the MTF level, and then headquarters, who's managing, overarching management, they don't know about it, so the MTFs call back to us and say, what do we do?
Yeah,
So
wrong
I
answer.
guess that answers that question.
Yes.
Yeah, wrong answer. And
DHA
get
can
that,
task.
Jeff, and is that under you? Is that yours or General Lodi's?
Tasking is General Lodi.
Right, so if they are, what function was they tasking? What entity?
They were pulling data for records administration through the different MTFs, trying to gather the data, the names, and the quantity.
Okay, were you
location.
tracking that?
That's the one. That's
Oh,
that's
okay.
I just need to take a picture of me or nothing.
Okay, yep, get it to me. Yep, get that to me. I will address
He
that
got you.
tomorrow because I have a meeting with OSD and DHA. They should not be doing that.
Were you smiling in the picture?
That is awesome. What else? Man, last time y'all were like questions galore.
Sir, I think we when we had that town hall down here, it alleviated a lot of those
We
questions.
got one in the back from the Redskins fan.
With the HR town hall.
Hello, sir. The question I have or statement is, from what I understand from Shed at one point a couple of years ago, we need to look at DHA as like a different command. So anytime they ask us to do something, they should go to our higher headquarters. Is that what you really? I mean, is that what we should be doing?
Absolutely. Yep, everything should come in through, in this case, taskings through the operational channel. If it's something technical, at times things enter the technical channel, but it should be at this level right here, Medcom OTSG, not an MTF, period. And all taskings should be coming through operations.
He let that Redskin comment go as a Cowboy. He let it ride.
Say who, me? Yeah. Okay, so if there are no questions, I'm not going to belabor it. Okay, we got one in the back. Yes, please. Let me go in the back and then we'll come here. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Goforth from the Army Fisher Houses. And so really, every time we have these town halls, a lot of times we know that it doesn't apply because we're NAF employees. And we usually are the last ones we think that are probably going to come to a decision. So what can I do to go back to my staff to kind of give them reassurance that we are on your radar, even though we're not on your payroll?
That one, I'm going to, Carrie, I'm going to phone a friend. No, good question. I'm going to have to.
We're one of the few MedCom NAF employees, so we know we're an anomaly.
Yeah. I think we're tracking you, but
That's what we want
I understand you're not in that radar.
Right.
But radar. Within the one staff through the business office, Ms. Hudson, we're kind of watching all of the people.
Okay.
So if we have a gap, let me know and we'll make sure you're getting the information.
Okay. Thank you.
We got it. NAF. All right, Becca, we will ensure. Okay. Smith, you already asked one question, man. You need to.
I'll speak on behalf of other people
kidding.
as well, sir.
No.
We had a meeting earlier this week where there was a lot of anxiety in the room about people thinking that they were going to lose their jobs, civilians and military. And I don't know all the specifics. If there's someone here from Manpower that may be able to address it.
You weren't here at the last town hall that we did because I think we covered that exhaustively, which resulted in us doing the HR town halls, which we drilled down even more.
Yes, sir.
Did the HR town halls not answer questions to the best of what we know right now? And if there are further specific questions, bring those to me or write them out. But again, there's only so much in a state of transition, that we know of in which they don't have the authorities. The one thing that I know we have to do, and everybody's been asking, okay, well, General Dingle, you come do a town hall at our MedCin or MTF, and we're trying to do that. But the information has not changed as we do those transitions. So the one thing with the anxieties that hit us the hardest was a year ago that MedCom is going away. That was the biggest thing for us. As MedCom goes away, it's a huge gap on, okay, well, who is what and what's where, which is a big issue for us.
Yes, sir.
So was it more enlisted or military, or was it?
It was both. Okay. And my understanding from some of the folks that were at that town hall, they came away feeling like they had more anxiety after the town hall.
Oh, really? Is that true?
The town hall.
Really? More anxiety?
That's what some people
shake a head,
said.
yes, no? More anxiety? No?
The answers haven't changed. It's still a lot of unknown with transfer function and medical readiness command. Until those things occur, the answers are kind of the same. So you're getting anxiety that you don't know.
So his answer was is that even though we had the town hall, that there was some anxiety that remained because the answers didn't really change. And what he was saying is that people will still feel kind of anxious until it's resolved about the medical readiness command and the transfer of functions versus transfer of work, until those answers are actually codified in hard copy, I believe is what I was trying to communicate. Is that what you were communicating, Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, that's Mr. Kennedy's opinion.
Okay.
And just one other thing, sir, just personally, so my position came off of the TDA. And what I'm being told by Manpower is that before FY22, it's not going to get back on there.
Sure.
That's along with a lot of other positions. I believe you had mentioned in one of your meetings, we need to get those positions back. But from my understanding, that's not going to happen before FY22. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Got it. I am aware. You brought it up to me, and make sure that you keep following up with me direct.
There he is, Mr. 4-5.
Oh yeah. My questions are, a lot of time we get a lot of taskings, and then it requires us to provide information in a timely and accurate manner. My question to you is, can we get support? Because once we have a lot of problems since we gone under DHA in the automation field. You know, we have techs, they doing the best they can, but when we go to them, they tell us that, well, that's DHA level. They have taken away a lot of responsibilities that we normally do in the MedCom. So so a lot of time I would call them and say, wait a minute, why aren't you monitoring the system and anticipating the problems that we're having, rather than each one of us have to go up to the 1-800 number, call and come back? Bottom line is, in order to get you the information that you need in a timely manner, we need some adequate systems that are working, because as we go through this computer transformation and upgrade and all of this here, it's taking 5 and 6 days and you don't get a computer back and it's not working. And you still, cause right now we still have problems. Your computer sits there 5 minutes, you have to restart it. And I know that's too lower than operational, but we're trying to get to the fact that we want to get you information, but we need some support systems in order to get this stuff to you.
Okay. Jeff, roll that up to me and see what we need to do, if it's internal or if I need to communicate with DHA on that one. Okay. Got it. What he said, he want the Dell 9000 because he got the Dell 50 and it ain't performing, you know. And the tech support still working on the Dell 500 and not the 9000 operation. Now, what other questions too? I hope you wrote these down too, so I can kind of really drill down to our geo champions. And some things like this is good for me, because as I go now back to the department level and I'm talking to DHA and director direct, I can raise specific issues up to them about processes to include tasking. So I really appreciate this. And again, I'm going to stay here. You know, I think I got another 30 minutes, but we'll stay up here. So if you have questions, you can please feel free to come up and talk to me direct.
Hooks has a question for you, sir.
Also.
Sir, one question for you. Eric Hooks from the Soldier Transition Branch under MHRD. Do you have any idea what's happening with the Warrior Care and Transition Program? I know it's transforming. We got that. We understand it's going to be rebranded and restructured, but there is a lot of talk about the program actually being nested somewhere else outside the MedCom footprint. I've heard ForceCom, I've heard a lot of different things, and we just want an idea if you know anything about that. And go Packers. Sorry about this, Armade.
Come on, man.
You know I had to put you out there.
Come on, man. Really?
So
Today?
one thing, the Warrior Care Transition Program, you know, all of the Warrior Transition units, you know, we reorganized, consolidated. They're remaining under the regional structures, period. Those are the mission command oversight. The Force Comms and the MCOMs, everyone's like, hey, they don't want it. You know, it's a medical function. And so we have strapped those, and it's always been my position, period, for those to stay there. Going back to last year, when the ambiguity comes from last year when the MedCom was going away and we're going to MRDs. And the issue was, who's going to provide the mission command for our WTUs, our Warrior Transition Units? The MedCom is providing the mission command for it. Now, the execution of the Warrior Games, you know, is right now the main issue that is in the balance on where does it go, who's going to execute. Some believe that, you know, to run the Warrior Games, it should be the installation, the MCOM, because they own the property, the land, and facilities. And then the Army, you know, could provide, you know, our Warrior Transition Office could provide that assistance with execution of the games. But one of the big issues right now is not where the Warrior Care Transition Program is remaining in MedCom and will transition to the Medical Readiness Command because it's a readiness issue, you know, not a soldier force deployment or force provider issue or a trade-out or installation. You know, it's us, and it's remaining under us. But execution of Warrior Games, that's a decision that we're still trying to, you know, MCOM thinks it should be, or AXIM believes it should be Army Medicine, and Army Medicine, no, it should be, you know, over in year one. That's the one decision that we still have to get a decision on. But structure remains the same. We're not changing outside of the consolidation of our units. I think there was a question over there. I saw a hand here.
You
If
and
not,
the
is there
chaplain.
none? No, someone else? Yes, ma'am.
It's
Okay, sir, to kind of summarize, you shared with us, we were in the, we were gonna go away, and we've been going through that. We've talked a little bit about the angst and anxiety from the staff level of all the changes going through with DHA. The inability right now to be able to clearly define what we are, what our future will be.
Well, there's no inability. We are the MedCom.
Okay, excellent. You lead so well, sir. And so we are the MedCom, and we do have some positions and people who will go work with the DHA eventually. But we don't have that all figured out, so it's still the crystal ball with a little bit of fuzz. But what's the timeline that you're seeing right now of when we might have a few of those answers so that, for example, can we hear more from you in January when you come back, and maybe it's a little bit clearer picture then, and that's our after Christmas present? So
when it gets to the personnel issues, it gets back to like I laid out. Remember I said and again, I'm talking Plan 3. So 1 October of 19 through 1 October of 20, the Defense Health Headquarters has the task to stand up its headquarters, to get the people in place. It has 1 year. And so that means that by 1 October 20, they should have resolved, said, here are the functions that we're taking over, and here is the one to end list of by name people. That headquarters structure, is supposed to be done by 1 October of 20. Conditions based. And so if they have not received the authorities that DHA needs to do, management directed transfers and all this other stuff from, the legal and executive levels, and they can't stand their headquarters up and they can't function, then the DHA headquarters is in opt, is unable to do that. So then it extends past that 1 October 20 next year until we can get it all fixed out. That is the biggest thing that we're really trying to work. So within the next year, all the personnel stuff is supposed to be resolved. The initial mark on the wall was they were hoping to get it done early, as in January, to have all the people, transferred. As you could see, that is going to be a very impossible thing to do on this next 30 days over the holidays. And so, again, and the DHA is hamstrung because, they need additional authorities to pull more people over. So within the next year, those answers on the who, the specifics, should be done. January, I'll give you an update, absolutely, but I can't promise you that it'll be done, that the eaches will be identified.
And there's some Army decisions.
Yes. What else? Any last question? Sergeant Major?
Thank you. No, I mean, and I'm not going to just end on that, because we just never get to tell you enough how thankful we are for you. And as we come upon Thanksgiving, it's a time to be thankful and time to be grateful for each other, and it's time for us to recognize and realize how important people are to us. I need for us all to realize how important people are to us, and for you to realize how important you are to us. Our mission cannot happen without us. And it's not Lieutenant General Dingle, it's not Sergeant Major Gregg, it is Army Medicine, it is us. And without you, we are unfunctional or dysfunctional or unsuccessful or a whole bunch of negative words that I'm tearing up right now in front of you. We can't do it without you. So thank you. We do work for you. If you need something, please reach out to us. If you don't, shame on you. You have to put us to work. If you don't put us to work for you, shame on you. Email us, we will respond. And there's a question, sir, because I was so inspiring.
I'm sorry,
Yes,
go
sir.
ahead.
I inspired the question.
Dana Rocha, AMED Quality and Safety Center. I just have a quick question. I know this is kind of a drawn question, but I'm going to ask it. With this transfer of function, is it true that it has to go through Congress and then be signed by the president? That is why it's going to take a lengthy time, just the transfer of function. I've heard that, and I wanted to kind of clarify that.
It's behind you, sir. I think
Yeah,
she wants
it
to.
has to go to Congress, get approved, and then must go to the president to be signed.
Yeah, great question, and I really appreciate you trying to delineate that out. There are components of the transfer of people to the DHA that is going to require authority that either is given by the president or by Congress, and that's the management-directed transfers. That's only one of the three pathways by which people can move from where they are today to the DHA. Break, the transfer of function pathway to get people to move from where they are today to DHA does not require congressional or presidential approval for it to take place. And that's the place where I think we're going to see the most immediate movement. And sir, I would probably define it a little smaller than a year, potentially to, in the next 3 to 4 months, we'll have the process start. And understand that the transfer of function process is something that's expected to take about 4 months. So employees will have to make a decision about transfer of function in a relatively short amount of time, but the execution of that will probably take 4 to 5 months. Does that help?
Actually helps. That would be like a by name request transfer of functions. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, the by name request piece I would probably take off of your statement. Okay. It's just the people who are doing the function that transfers go with that. It's not that the gaining organization puts in, hey, they want Johnson, and so he goes. Okay, it's the function and the people who are doing the function that's being transferred. Does that make sense?
When Johnson
Yes.
work goes, Johnson goes too.
Yes, but we've kind of heard some mixed things where we've had people that are on a transfer function list and by name, so we've heard both. That's why I asked that question.
Perfect. So for the functions that have been defined and accepted by DHA, so nominated by Army, accepted by DHA, we have now narrowed that back down to the specific names of the individuals who are actually doing that. Okay. So there is a by name list of Johnson does human research protection function, and that's going to transfer to the DHA. So yes, that does exist, but it's not a by name request from the gaining organization, DHA, to the losing organization, in this case, Medical Command. And then just to round out the 3 ways that people can move, the third way is the way that we are attempting to minimize, which is competitive hires. And again, our attempt is to try to make sure that we get transfer of function to happen first, then anybody who doesn't apply there, that goes through management directed transfers, assuming that Congress or the president approves that. Mm-hmm. And as a last case scenario, it then is competitive hires. And the whole reason is because of what you saw in the briefing from General Dingell. This is about how do we take care of our people, and how do we make sure that we have a soft landing for everybody that it's possible to have that soft landing for.
So would the competitive hiring be the people that are not management directed, that are left out? And that would each time, each section, those 3 different ways you go, the pool will get smaller. The people that are left that are not transfer function, by name, whatever, and then management directed, there's going to be a pool left. Then they're going to have to competitive hire. So they're going to have to recompete for their own job or similar job?
So implied in that process of necking it down from transfer of function to management-directed transfers to then competitive hires is there isn't a mapping that goes over. So there's a new function that has to take place in the DHA. That's where they should be looking for competitive hires. I think you'll also in reality see some competitive hires to say that DHA needs 100 people to do function A. All of the services only have 80 people to do that. All 80 have gone to the DHA. They need another 20 people to do the function, and they're going to do those by competitive hires, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I don't want to get that last piece confused, because there's sometimes more requirements than there are actually people who are in that functional category.
I was just wondering, because in our arena, there's like a massive amount of contractors in the DHA and how that affects those different, that's kind of what we were wondering personally, how that will affect those 3 different components, because there is a lot of them.
Didn't they cover that in the town hall also?
I apologize, I was not here.
Oh, I'm sorry. We got to make sure we get that information. And so one of the key things on that note, and the great questions, and I really didn't mind you expounding, it's in the definition or the interpretation of what transfer of function is. So for the Army is like, hey, look, this is transfer of function, our people, healthcare delivery, period. The DHA says, okay, you know what? Here's our definition of transfer of function. And so the argument right now, or the diatribe has been, no, here's our transfer of function. You know, all those people, these are the people that do this function or this job. And if we're transferring the function, here it is. The DHA's, no, this is what we see. And so that has been the huge argument between the services and the DHA, which is why this is going on, is the interpretation of what you said. The process is exactly that. You know, you hit it, and General Johnson hit it. You're right. The transfer of function, whatever we ultimately agree on, it's going to have to go to the SecDef, because, you know, everybody is dug in to their positions. Army, Navy, Air Force, hey, this is what our functions are, and in accordance with the directive, this is what's going over to you. DHA's interpretation is this, and so it's going to have to be resolved probably up to the Secretary of Defense or high levels or OSD levels for a decision, because right now it's stuck. You know, you're right on the process. The transfer of functions go over, then the management directed transfers, then those, you know, left competitive hires. But in order to do that middle one, you're right, they have to get the authorities, and that's what he laid out, that has to get that approval.
Excuse me, a lot of them are not done at the DHA level.
Well, they don't do it at all.
Or, they don't do it at all, or they do bits and pieces, and those are all done by contractors. So, and we are, when you asked about taskers earlier, I hate to elaborate, but we don't get taskers, we get askers every day requesting information, and it's ongoing. So, and they're constantly asking for stuff at the DHA level, because they don't have the realm that we do at this level, and so they're trying to build their program because they don't have a program at that level. So again, we're trying to help them build that program, basically taking all of Army stuff and they're rebranding it DHA. But again, they don't have the function now, or if they do, it's only very minor pieces of that function. So we're just trying to understand how that comes into play.
No, absolutely. No, that's fair. And again, and we're fighting that. We're fighting that because we know that, hey, look, there are a lot of contractors over there. However, these are priorities.
Yes, sir.
You know, and there is a law. And so we're watching that closely too and fighting that battle. And that's what's causing the difficulty, you know, in the whole process.
Yes, sir.
You know, in us moving forward.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Sir, do you see the future from, I'm sorry, do you see the...
Can you wait for the mic, sir? I'm sorry. Right here.
You had mentioned that it probably, you know, could be a year, you know, from October 2020 to 21 where we start onboarding people, or it could be about 4 months, depending on the action. Do you foresee a decision, maybe an outlook on standing up the readiness command between now and the next 4 months? Or what's your time frame for seeing a final decision on, yes, there is a readiness command and we are ready to start staffing?
Remember, that's just a change of name.
Yeah.
The readiness command is MedCom. You know, MedCom is already stood up. MedCom has been stood up, and it's going to continue. At the point we change the name, you know, it's going to be down the line somewhere. You know, but again, it's just a branding name change. The Navy and Air Force have already changed BUMED to Navy Medical Readiness Command. Air Force has gone from AFMOA, Air Force Medical Readiness Command. We have not changed our name yet, but that's one thing that we're working on is the timing of when.
Okay, so it's more of a definition of mission then?
Correct. Or not definition of mission. Our mission is the same.
Right.
It's just change of name.
Okay, all right, good.
Right.
There's a question behind you, First Sergeant.
See, I'm staying here missing my flight. I have not left because y'all are important, and we'll catch the
red eye, the real red
Ms.
eye.
Hepburn from Soldier Transition Branch. I guess my overall question is, will we expect updates as you all come down and do town halls, or can we expect updates as things are changing? Because we've been in so much turmoil for the last year, and I thought our family was breaking up. Now it sounds like the family may be staying together. I get to eat a little longer, maybe today, tomorrow I might have to get a kids meal.
We still together.
So I guess my question is, will we be updated if and when things change instead of scheduled town halls?
Yes, that is a great question and a great point. So here's what I'm committing to you right now. So General Bagby, stand
Wait a
up.
minute, sir. Let me turn my recorder on my phone.
Stand up. Carrie, stand up. So here's what we're going to do. So every 2 months, we're down here doing this open forum. As things change, I am directing, the DCG, General Bagby, Deputy Commanding General, and Carrie as the Assistant Chief of Staff. What's the title? Assistant Chief of Staff? Deputy Chief of Staff, to provide updates to you as they occur. And so it will not be the gaps between, okay, here's the next talent management or human resource town hall, or when General Dingell, Command Sergeant Major, coming down every 2 months. They will provide you the updates as they occur. You will put them out to the staff, but if you need to bring folks together, do a monthly assemblage of the people to provide them the latest update, whether here or over in the auditorium, okay? And then leverage the staff meetings you're running here to get the information out, but you will provide the latest information to the family, to the team, to the staff as they occur at a minimum monthly open, because some folks say, well, I don't get a chance to go to the staff meeting that you're running, and so assemble the people and allow them to come in to hear the updates. Acknowledged? Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Ask and you shall receive.
Easy.
She said, I'll take a GS-14 increased raise. My aide is giving me the hook. You've heard me. I'm biased. I'm excited about tomorrow because of the support that we have from the Army senior leaders. I'm excited about the transition because I know the transition, remember, is not us versus them, but we are them. Whether if it's transfer of function, people going over, or commanders that are leading those hospitals, those organizations. We have to make it work. And where I need each of us is to lead through transformation, transition. As we hold these forums, again, don't hold back, and I appreciate the questions. I love them. Because it brings awareness to us on where we need to provide more information or ask better questions or get the answers to you to the best of our ability. And that's what, again, we're going to do, not waiting for us, but on a continual basis. You all are above the best. Is tomorrow going to look like today? No.
Never does.
Because we're constantly changing. If we're not constantly changing, that's where we lose that readiness, that relevance, and that responsiveness. The MedCom, the Medical Readiness Command, whatever you call it by whatever name, it's not going down. But we will continue to be responsive to the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine that need us, and that's us. Do not hesitate, to reach out and speak out. because again, it's all about people, as the chief says, and it's our responsibility. So please don't be bashful. You know, and I know I keep saying I'm gonna walk around and get down here more. I am really trying. But as I do that, you know, again, don't be bashful. You can ask the same questions and hit me up, and I tell you, I'm gonna work and get an answer, because we owe that to you. Thank you for what you do, and I look forward to the next time. We'll be down here a couple months, a couple weeks for the MCO.
Yes.
Right, but I don't think you have time for the staff.
Okay.
If you have a few moments, we'll try to walk you through the building and be able to say.
All right, we'll work it in. So I'll be down here to do the MCO holiday ball, to speak there.
And then the change of command.
In January. Okay, got it. All right. Thank you all. Have a good evening. I appreciate you. Thank you for what you do.